If you're not yet familiar with the no-knead method of bread baking, popularized by a New York Times article on the subject, then I think you're in for a pleasant surprise. In a few seconds, I'm going to show you an incredibly easy method for making amazingly good bread. The kind with a crispy crust and tender inside with big holes. This bread is far superior to what's available at most bakeries and on par with some of the best. Okay, let's get started. The first step involves combining the dry ingredients, which consists of 3 cups of flour, which can be 3 cups of all-purpose flour, all-purpose white flour, or preferably bread flour. Although in this case I'm going to use a cup of whole wheat flour and 2 cups of bread flour. And then 1½ teaspoons of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of instant yeast. And then mix that up. And then stir in 1½ cups of purified water. And what you'll end up with is an extremely wet blob of dough. Just mix it up for it takes about 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds. And then cover with plastic, or I'm going to put it in a plastic bag, and let it sit at room temperature for 18 hours. Okay, it's the next day and it's been about 18 hours. What we want to do now is take the dough and turn it out onto a reasonably well-floured surface. So that you can see the dough has risen quite nicely and it's all wet and bubbly. And I'm just going to scrape it out onto the surface. And then dust the top with some flour and my hands and fingers real well so the dough doesn't stick to them too much. And then just kind of gently spread it out. Once that's done, all I'm going to do is fold it in thirds like this, and then in half on itself. And then just cover it with plastic loosely and let it rest for 15 minutes. Now that the dough has rested for 15 minutes, what I'm going to do is place it on a well-floured towel or in a proofing basket for its final rise or proofing period. And for flour, what I actually use is either cornmeal, or what works really well is this wheat bran, so that the dough doesn't stick to the towel. What I'm going to use is a proofing basket that's already sprinkled with the wheat bran. So what I'm going to do is dust my hands well again, and a little bit more on the dough, because what I'm going to do is pick it up, and it's still going to be wet and sticky, and invert it so the seam side is down, and quickly and gently shape it into something resembling a ball. This whole process doesn't take more than about 10 seconds, and then drop it in the proofing basket. And now all I want to do is cover it with a cloth towel this time and let it rise for somewhere between about typically an hour and a half and 2 hours. Now it's been about 1½ hours and the dough has risen nicely and it's ready to bake. To get the full benefits of the no-knead method, the bread has to bake in either a clay baker, like this La Cloche clay baker, or a cast iron Dutch oven, preheated to 500 degrees. Now I'm going to take the preheated La Cloche out of the oven and gently invert the proofing basket into the base of the La Cloche. And bake for 30 minutes, keeping the temperature at 500 degrees. After 30 minutes, remove the lid and reduce the temperature to 450 for an additional 15 minutes. So a total of 45 minutes bake time. Okay, it's been 45 minutes. The bread should be done baking now. So I'll just place it on this rack and let it cool for a couple of hours. Okay, now that the bread is cool, let's see what we have. The crust seems crispy enough. Nice open crumb. And because of the long overnight proofing, the flavor should have developed nicely as well. With the no-knead method, it's now easy for anyone to make wonderful bread at home. You'll find more information and some tasty variations of this basic recipe at breadtopia.com.